When Eilat Mazar realized she discovered an ancient structure near Jerusalem, she turned to the Bible to help explain what she found.
And she learned that this new discovery supports the biblical accounts of King David and his son Solomon.
For centuries, King Solomon's tomb was a mystery whispered through history. Archaeologists searched, historians debated, and legends grew. Then, a forgotten trail in ancient records led a modern team to a steep hillside near Jerusalem. What they uncovered was far beyond expectations. Hidden chambers, intricate carvings, and sealed rooms appeared one after another. Each discovery raised questions no one had answers for, pointing to a secret that had remained untouched for 3 millennia. The king behind the legend. King Solomon ruled Israel in the 10th century BCE, rising to the throne after the death of his father, King David. David had united the tribes and secured Jerusalem, but the kingdom Solomon inherited was still unstable. It was young, surrounded by rivals, and vulnerable to internal division. According to historical and biblical records, Solomon was also very young when he became king. Many expected his rule to be short or weak. What followed took the ancient world by surprise. Instead of ruling through constant warfare, Solomon chose a different path. Reports from ancient texts describe a king who relied on planning, alliances, and control rather than force. His rule quickly became linked to wisdom.
Do I lay claim to the air you are breathing now? Is it mine since it is within my chamber?
Stories about his decisions spread across the region. The most famous account describes 2 women who each claimed to be the mother of the same child. Solomon's judgment exposed the truth without bloodshed.
His true mother.
Whether this story is fully historical or shaped by later tradition, it shows how people remembered him. They saw a ruler who could solve problems others could not. As his reputation grew, so did his wealth. According to records and later reports, Solomon controlled key trade routes that linked the Mediterranean world to Africa and Asia. Ships sent under his authority traveled to distant regions such as Tarshish and Ophir. Some scholars believe these places were sources of gold, copper, ivory, and rare materials. Reports suggest these expeditions returned with goods never before seen in Jerusalem. This flow of wealth transformed the kingdom and placed Solomon among the most powerful rulers of his time.
King Solomon is an intriguing figure because the Bible makes so many claims about him, controlling vast amounts of territory.
The strongest symbol of Solomon's authority was the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. Ancient accounts state that the project took 7 years and required careful planning on an unprecedented scale. Cedar wood was brought from Lebanon. Stone blocks were cut with precision so they fit together tightly. According to biblical accounts, the blocks were shaped at the quarry so perfectly that no hammer sound was heard during construction at the temple site. Gold was used not only as decoration, but as part of the structure itself. According to tradition, the temple became the center of worship and identity for the people of Israel. It also turned Jerusalem into a political and spiritual capital. Many believe this building was meant to stand forever.
300 years or 400 years after the construction of the building. But the building was still standing in Jerusalem.
Solomon's fame reached far beyond his borders. Foreign rulers began traveling to Jerusalem to see him for themselves. The most well-known visitor was the Queen of Sheba. According to reports, she arrived with caravans filled with gifts and tested Solomon with difficult questions. Ancient sources claim she left both impressed and unsettled by his knowledge and wealth. Whether every detail is accurate or not, the story reflects how Solomon was viewed across the ancient world.
The fame of King Solomon has spread like a rising tide, have crossed the desert for many months to bathe in the ocean of his wisdom.
He was not seen as an ordinary king. He was seen as someone who understood things others did not. When Solomon died, the world went quiet around him. Records stopped, details vanished, and whatever followed his final days slipped out of reach almost immediately. The century-long enigma of the missing tomb. After Solomon's death, something deeply unsettling became clear. His name continued to appear everywhere, in laws, songs, traditions, and later writings, but his physical remains seemed to vanish from history. When historians and archaeologists began studying the ancient landscape of Jerusalem, they encountered a disturbing silence. There was no marker tied to Solomon. There was no confirmed structure. There was no burial chamber that could be reliably linked to him. For a king described as one of the most powerful figures of the ancient world, this absence raised serious concern. It was not expected. It was troubling. The mystery becomes even more striking when Solomon is compared to other rulers of his time. His father, King David, is traditionally associated with a burial site that has been identified and honored for centuries. Other Israelite kings left behind tombs, inscriptions, or physical traces that pointed clearly to their final resting places. Solomon did not. One explanation offered by historians focuses on destruction. In 586 BCE, the Babylonian forces invaded Jerusalem. The city was burned, walls were torn down, and sacred buildings were looted. According to historical reports, entire sections of the city were reduced to rubble. Some believe Solomon's burial place may have been damaged or erased during this chaos.
But something that's never mentioned in any of those records is the Ark of the Covenant, something that would have certainly been mentioned had they taken it.
At first, this explanation seems reasonable, but it quickly raises another problem. Other royal tombs endured the destruction, or at least left traces behind. Solomon's burial did not. This led researchers to consider a more deliberate possibility. Some believe the tomb was hidden long before the Babylonian invasion. According to certain interpretations, Solomon's immense wealth made his burial site a prime target for grave robbers. Others suggest that secrecy was part of a larger royal strategy. Beyond these explanations, darker stories began to circulate. According to later texts and local traditions, some believe Solomon's tomb held more than treasure. These accounts claim it contained sacred objects or knowledge considered dangerous if exposed. There is no solid evidence to support this, but the persistence of these stories is notable. According to locals and later writers, the belief that something powerful lies buried beneath Jerusalem never fully disappeared. Driven by these beliefs, many groups attempted to locate the tomb. Medieval knights searched for it, guided by legend and religious conviction. Explorers during later centuries followed ancient maps and rumors. In modern times, archaeologists used advanced scanning tools and excavation techniques.
We're gonna continue, and very soon we're gonna find something really very important and very special over there.
Each effort ended the same way. No chamber was found. No entrance appeared. Every failure deepened the frustration and strengthened the mystery. Practical limits also played a role. Much of ancient Jerusalem lies beneath modern buildings. Political tensions restricted access to key areas. The terrain itself proved dangerous, with unstable rock and collapsed passages. According to excavation reports, many promising locations could not be fully explored. These limits left critical gaps and allowed the mystery to endure. Over time, Solomon's missing tomb became caught between story and evidence. Legends grew louder while proof remained silent. Scholars debated, believers waited. Skeptics dismissed the entire subject as myth. Still, the silence refused to fade. For centuries, every accepted method failed, but the story was far from over. Discovery in the most unlikely place.
All right, that's one of the part of the double gates Temple Mount. It also that went still to underground of the Temple Mount.
For centuries, the search for Solomon's secrets focused on the ground. Archaeologists dug where tradition pointed them. They scanned beneath temples, walls, and known royal zones. Every effort ended in silence. That pattern changed with the work of Dr. Emily Carter, a modern archaeologist who believed the answers were not buried in stone, but hidden in paper. Dr. Carter was not known for dramatic excavations. According to colleagues, her strength was patience. Instead of leading digs, she spent years studying ancient records that most researchers ignored. These included tax lists, labor payments, supply logs, and administrative notes from the late Iron Age. Many considered these documents dull and repetitive. Dr. Carter believed they were honest. She believed records meant for accounting often revealed truths that stories tried to hide. While reviewing translated fragments from regional archives, she noticed something unusual. Certain records listed large shipments of stone, tools, food, and labor wages. These were not small deliveries.
And gone through to the standing pit and dealt with the bones, the skeleton, the body would be left here on the bench.
They were organized, repeated, and expensive, yet the destination was never clearly named. Instead of place names, the documents used vague references such as protected sites or restricted zones. According to reports, this pattern appeared multiple times over several years. At first, Dr. Carter assumed the gaps were damage or poor preservation. But the pattern continued across different documents. Some listed payments for guards. Others mentioned extra rations for workers assigned to unnamed locations. When she compared timelines, she noticed something else. These entries clustered around the final years of Solomon's reign. That detail caught her attention. Dr. Carter began cross-referencing the records with known geography. She compared distances, supply quantities, and travel times mentioned in the documents.
If there is some truth to this legend, then where is King Solomon's treasure buried?
Slowly, a rough location began to form. It was not inside the main city. It was not near the temple. According to her analysis, the trail pointed south of Jerusalem, near the city of David, toward a steep hillside in the area now known as Silwan. This location raised immediate concern. The hillside was unstable and dangerous. According to excavation reports from later centuries, the ground there was prone to collapse. Ancient tunnels ran through weak rock. Locals had long avoided deep digging in the area. For decades, archaeologists had marked it as too risky to explore fully. That may have been why it remained untouched. According to some interpretations, the documents suggested the site was not only hidden but protected. References to guards and restricted access implied deliberate control. Some believe this may point to a royal project meant to remain unseen. Others caution that the records alone cannot confirm this. Still, the consistency was difficult to ignore.
King Solomon is an intriguing figure because the Bible makes so many claims about him.
When Dr. Carter presented her findings, the response was mixed. Some dismissed the work as speculative, others felt a quiet unease. According to reports, one reviewer described the evidence as thin but troubling. Another noted that the lack of a name might itself be the strongest clue. What unsettled many was not just where the trail led, but why it had been missed. The documents had always been there. They were cataloged and translated. They had simply been overlooked. Dr. Carter's work suggested that the greatest clue to Solomon's mystery was hidden in plain sight. The paper trail had reached its end. What remained was the ground itself, and the hillside waiting beyond the records was known for one thing above all else. It did not forgive mistakes. The path forward would no longer be safe or theoretical. It would demand action. It would involve risk. It would involve unstable ground. And it would force the team to confront a place that history and caution had kept untouched for centuries. That hillside was waiting. The untouched hill of Silwan. The hillside in Silwan did not look like a place that held answers. It was steep, uneven, and made of sharp limestone that cracked easily under pressure. The soil shifted without warning. According to excavation records, parts of the slope had collapsed in the past with little notice. This was not stable ground. It was the kind of terrain that injured workers and buried tools. For decades, archaeologists marked it as a danger zone. There were other barriers as well. The area sat near sensitive locations, where access was limited and permits were difficult to obtain. Political tension made long-term excavation nearly impossible. According to reports from earlier survey teams, even shallow work required constant negotiation. Most researchers chose easier sites. The hill of Silwan remained untouched, not because it lacked interest, but because the risk outweighed the reward. Dr. Carter's team approached the problem differently. Instead of digging, they brought ground-penetrating radar equipment designed to scan beneath the surface without disturbing it. This technology could detect voids, walls, and changes in material density. According to specialists, it was one of the few tools capable of working safely in such unstable ground. The team mapped the slope carefully, section by section. The first results were disappointing. Scan after scan showed nothing out of the ordinary. No chambers, no walls, no clear tunnels. According to team notes, doubt began to spread. Some wondered if the documents had misled them. Others questioned whether the ground was simply too damaged to read clearly. Weeks passed with no breakthrough. Tension grew. Then nature intervened. According to weather reports, a sudden and violent rainstorm struck the area overnight. Water poured down the hillside, loosening soil and washing debris downhill. When the team returned the next morning, they noticed something subtle but alarming. A shallow depression had formed near the area flagged in Dr. Carter's analysis. It was small and easy to miss, but it had not been there before. Concerned about a possible collapse, the team re-scanned the area immediately. This time, the readings changed. Beneath the surface, the radar detected straight lines, right angles, repeating patterns. According to engineers on site, these shapes could not occur naturally. Stone fractures did not form clean corners. Soil did not settle into grids. The data suggested tunnels. As the scans expanded, the picture became clearer. Multiple passageways ran beneath the hill. Some appeared narrow, others widened and then narrowed again. According to preliminary interpretations, the layout was intentional. The tunnels were not random. They were designed. What unsettled the team most was the level of concealment. The structures sat deep enough to avoid surface detection, but shallow enough to be accessed if one knew where to look. Some believe the placement was calculated to survive erosion and time. Others caution that more data is needed. Still, the precision was impossible to ignore. By the end of the survey, one conclusion was unavoidable. The hill was not empty. It had been engineered, and whatever lay beneath it had been protected with care and skill. The team had not found a single chamber. They had found a system, and that meant the real danger was still ahead. The ingenious defenses of an ancient tomb. Once the existence of the tunnel system was confirmed, the team understood they were no longer dealing with a simple burial site. According to preliminary assessments, the passages beneath the hill were built to confuse, delay, and punish anyone who entered without knowledge. The first explored sections revealed narrow corridors that led nowhere. Some ended abruptly in solid rock. Others looped back on themselves. These were not mistakes. According to structural analysts, they were intentional dead ends designed to exhaust intruders and waste time. As the team advanced carefully, more hazards appeared. Certain sections showed signs of controlled instability. Stone supports were placed in a way that could shift under pressure. According to reports from the engineering crew, even a small disturbance could cause sections of the ceiling to collapse. These features suggested that the builders expected intruders and planned for them. Whoever designed this place understood how fear worked and how to use the environment as a weapon. Near what appeared to be an early junction, the team noticed markings carved into the stone. They were faint and badly worn. At first, they looked decorative or meaningless. Closer inspection revealed repeated symbols and shallow grooves placed at specific heights. According to some interpretations, these may have been instructions rather than warnings. They were positioned where only someone standing in the correct location could see them clearly. Others believe they served as alignment markers for movement through the tunnels. There is no final agreement, but the placement was deliberate. To proceed safely, the team had to slow down. Every step was measured. Engineers studied the structure closely, mapping weight distribution and stress points. They tested sequences by applying controlled pressure to certain stones while monitoring surrounding movement. According to reports, several passages reacted instantly to disturbance, shifting just enough to show how quickly they could collapse. One mistake could seal off entire sections permanently. As more of the layout became visible, another pattern emerged. The tunnels followed precise angles, distances repeated in consistent ratios, turns occurred at regular intervals. According to specialists, this level of mathematical and geometric control was rare for the period. It suggested advanced planning and careful calculation. Some believe the design reflects knowledge passed down through elite builders. Others caution that the conclusions remain speculative until more evidence is gathered. The tension inside the tunnels intensified. Team members reported rising anxiety as they realized how narrow their margin for error was. Lights revealed only a few meters ahead. Behind them, the hill pressed in from all sides. According to field notes, silence became heavy. Every movement carried consequences. At some point, the realization set in. This place was not meant to be discovered by force. It was meant to be understood. The defenses did not simply block access. They tested the intruder. According to some researchers, the design suggests the tomb was intended to be reached only by those who knew how to read its signals and respect its logic. By the time the team identified a path that bypassed the major traps, one truth became clear. These defenses were only the outer layer. Whatever they were protecting lay deeper, and it was guarded far more carefully than anyone had imagined. With the outer defenses overcome, the team stepped closer to the inner chamber, where centuries of secrets had been waiting. The treasure chamber. When the final outer barrier was passed, the tunnel opened into a wide stone chamber. For a moment, no one spoke. Light swept across the room and reflected off metal surfaces that should not have looked the way they did. Along the walls stood vessels made of gold, arranged carefully as if they had been placed yesterday. Bowls, cups, plates, and ceremonial objects rested in neat order. Several vessels displayed pomegranate and lily motifs matching the decorative patterns described in biblical accounts of temple furnishings. According to early field reports, there was no sign of looting, no disturbance, and no decay beyond what time alone would cause. As the team moved further inside, the scale of the chamber became clearer. This was not a random storage space, it was a collection assembled with purpose. Ivory carvings appeared along one section of the wall. Specialists later suggested the ivory likely came from African trade routes. Nearby, folded fragments of fine fabric were recovered. Some believe these were silk, pointing towards long-distance contact with regions as far as India. Clay containers held hardened remains of spices and resins. According to preliminary analysis, some of these substances were not native to the region and would have required extensive trade networks to obtain. The implications were immediate and overwhelming. These objects matched descriptions found in ancient texts that many scholars had long debated. Gold in large quantities, rare goods from distant lands, materials that confirmed Jerusalem was connected to the wider ancient world.
From the rebuilding of the temple and Jerusalem to a coming messianic king.
According to archaeologists on site, this chamber alone provided physical evidence that Solomon's kingdom operated on a global scale. What had once been argued in books was now sitting in front of them. Carved into the stone walls were inscriptions. Some were simple marks that may have indicated ownership or ritual use. Others were more complex. Symbols repeated in patterns. Short phrases appeared next to specific objects. According to some interpretations, these carvings may have served as inventory records or instructions for handling sacred items. Others believe the markings carried coded meanings meant only for a small group. No final conclusion has been reached, but the placement was intentional. Then came the unsettling details. A few artifacts did not fit expectations. Certain symbols did not match known writing systems from the period. Some designs appeared either older or influenced by cultures that should not have had contact with Jerusalem at that time. According to unverified reports, this raised immediate concern among researchers. Either the timeline was incomplete, or these objects were placed here for reasons not yet understood. The uncertainty created tension inside the chamber. What shocked the team most was the condition of everything they saw. The chamber had been sealed with extreme care. No moisture had entered. No collapse had disturbed the space. Even organic materials showed signs of careful preservation. According to conservation experts, this level of protection suggested advanced planning and an understanding of how to guard against time itself. Team members later described the moment as unreal. Some stood frozen. Others struggled to speak. This chamber exceeded every expectation. Yet as the documentation continued, a strange realization began to form. The layout felt incomplete. The arrangement suggested preparation rather than finality. According to several researchers, this was not the destination. This was an entrance chamber, a place meant to impress, distract, or prepare the visitor. While the gold captured attention, it became clear that wealth was not the final secret. Something deeper remained hidden. The inner room. The final passageway ended at a wall that did not look accidental. The stone blocks were smoother here. The joints were tighter. According to excavation notes, this section showed no signs of collapse or repair. It had been sealed deliberately. When the team gained access, they entered a chamber unlike any other found within the complex. The walls were covered in inscriptions and precise geometric patterns. Circles intersected with triangles. Lines repeated at fixed intervals. Symbols associated with Solomon appeared throughout the room, etched with care and consistency. According to epigraphers, these markings were not decorative. They followed rules, each symbol aligned with another. Nothing was random. The layout suggested a system meant to be read, not simply observed. At the center of the chamber, carved into the stone floor, was a symbol many recognized immediately. According to historical tradition, it matched what later sources described as the Seal of Solomon. Some legends claim it was used to command spirits. Others say it marked sacred knowledge meant to be guarded. Archaeologists were careful not to overstate its meaning. There is no proof the seal had any supernatural function. Still, its placement at the center of the room carried weight. It suggested authority. It suggested warning. Along the walls, clay tablets were stacked into narrow recesses cut directly into the stone. Many were intact, some were cracked, but readable. According to early analysis, several tablets contained measurements that closely matched known biblical descriptions of the temple. Ratios of rooms, distances between structural points, proportions repeated with precision. Other tablets were harder to understand. They contained sequences of numbers, symbols, and instructions that did not align with any known writing system or accounting method from the period. Some researchers noted similarities to later texts known as the Key of Solomon. This medieval work claims to preserve ancient wisdom and rituals associated with Solomon's name. Scholars stress that the connection cannot be proven. The texts are separated by centuries. Still, the overlap in symbols, structure, and emphasis on guarded knowledge raised difficult questions. According to some interpretations, these tablets may represent an earlier source that was later copied, transformed, or mythologized. What became clear was the design of the chamber itself. According to engineers, it was positioned so that even if the outer rooms were breached, this space would remain hidden. The access route was narrow, indirect, and deliberately misleading. It was easy to miss unless one already understood the system. This was not a chamber built to impress invaders. It was built to survive discovery. As the team studied the tablets, tension rose. The mathematics involved were advanced. The ratios suggested architectural planning beyond what was typically expected for the era. Some team members expressed concern. Others felt unease. This was not a burial space. It was not storage. It was preservation. Something was being protected here with intention. The realization settled slowly. The complex had not been created to honor a king's death. It had been built to guard knowledge. Knowledge meant to be restricted. Knowledge not intended for public use. At the far end of the chamber sat a sealed chest. No hinges were visible. No force could open it. According to specialists, it could only respond to precise alignment and understanding. After 3 days of examination, the team made a decision that divided opinion. They would document the chest's existence, but leave it unopened. Dr. Carter argued that everything about the complex, the defenses, the mathematical precision, the deliberate concealment suggested this was knowledge meant to be restricted. The outer chambers tested whether intruders could resist wealth. The inner chamber tested whether they understood boundaries. Some team members disagreed, believing their purpose was complete discovery. Others supported the decision, recognizing that preservation sometimes means knowing when to stop. The debate continues among archaeologists, but the chest remains sealed. What lies inside may be treasure, it may be texts, it may be objects whose purpose we cannot guess. What is certain is that Solomon, or whoever designed this complex, succeeded in protecting it for 3,000 years. And in choosing restraint over revelation, the team honored that original intent. Some mysteries, they concluded, deserve to remain mysteries. If you enjoyed watching this video, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel.